Welcome to the Growth Whisperers podcast, where everything we talk about is about building enduring, great companies. Why? Well, we just kind of like it. We like seeing companies that build decade after decade and dominate their spaces and become just awesome companies on the planet. I'm Kevin Lawrence here in Peachland, British Columbia, and I'm here with Brad Giles, my partner, my loyal, awesome partner that we've done, on episode 126 here down in Perth, Australia. Brad, how you doing today?
Lovely. Very, very good. How are you, Kev?
Awesome. That's as usual. Like, life is good. Life is grand. Business is good. And happy to be here. We always get some great thinking when we put these podcasts together. So what's the word of the day? What is the main?
It's filthy. It's not the word filthy. It's a disgusting, filthy thing that I learned about on the weekend, and it's just repulsive. So,
this is going to be good.
I came across this concept called overworkers, right? There's a Reddit forum called Overworking, and it's remote workers who are holding down multiple jobs and lying to their employers that they're only working for them. So they've got, for example, they could be a software engineer and they've got a computer for job A, or they call it J1, job 1. They've got another computer for J2, and some of them have got 8 or 9 full-time jobs. So you think about what's a full-time salary, multiply it by 8 or 9, and there's this whole community of people that are giving each other tips and tricks on how to get around hiring and KPIs and accountability and all of this stuff. And it's filthy and disgusting. I'm sorry if I've upset your day, but yeah, it really, really affected me when I read it. Thank you for allowing me to vent. Kev, what's your word of the day?
Well, interesting. I think I had someone that did that once. I think I worked with one of those. And it was a wild experience. Anyway, that is incredible. People are very creative. The people who want everyone in the office, that'll catalyze them more to do it. Although you probably could do it in the office too if you really were clever and have one remote job and one fixed job. Anyway, that's a whole thing. That's incredible. My word of the day is adventure. And doing a lot of I listen to audiobooks rather than reading, but as we were doing this great road trip through California and checking out all kinds of different places and different good and different bad in some cases, but just how it opens up your mind to new things. Just seeing and having different experiences makes you think differently, and that's what I love. And from the worst restaurant that I went to, we went to just this little place on the ocean that was horrific, actually, just horrible, to the best. But you just get to see, like, people have a good intent. People don't intend to do poorly, but for whatever reason, sometimes that they just do. And in this place, I could just see this. That's just how they do things, right? So, but adventure opens up your mind. You get different perspectives and different ideas and different angles. Some of the conversations that we had with people, like the stranger. We were in a place just down by Newport Beach, California, in this little restaurant that was recommended by one of the clients working with down there, and a little Italian place. Had a really nice dinner. But the guy across the table, who was super chatty, who ended up having dinner chatting with the table beside us, and he talked about what he was doing. But he was a rock band, and he's a drummer for a whole bunch of the bands that we would know. He was like a freelance drummer talking about his life, but just the adventure and the people you meet and opening it up. So what was your word again, Brad? It was a dirty.
No, it was overworkers.
Overworkers. It was dirty yeah. Overworkers and adventures. You probably could do, if you just did a whole bunch of overworking and pretended to work, you probably could have some adventures. Although I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I was doing that.
It's ethics, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. It's like, come on. Like, we have one of our core values in our firm is to do what you say and then some.
Yeah.
If you make a commitment, you deliver it, and ideally do a little bit more. which is not something that's true for those
Do you know?
overworkers.
Do you know very quickly? The thing that struck me is all of the stuff that we talk about, from hiring, finding A players, doing interviews with or reference checks with multiple employers, KPIs, regular meetings that are structured, smart priorities, all of the stuff that we stick to was the things that the overworkers were trying to not do, or they were like, this is the way that you get caught. And so it was kind of reassuring that if you stick to the recipe that we advocate, that
there's not room for that.
There's not room for that.
It'd be very, and also our manager, who's, I mean, obviously those people's managers are absent to some degree. It is interesting. I mean, the management issue should pick that up, unless they're in on the scam too, which could be happening. Another interesting thing that I've seen, was when, and the same thing is there's shysters everywhere.
Yeah.
One hotel we stayed at in California, I won't name it out of respect for it, but it had a 4.2 rating for like a mid-market hotel. A 4.2 was quite a good rating for a hotel on Expedia. It should have had about a 2.2.
Yeah.
To the point where we'd booked 2 nights. At the end of the first night, we're in the office. 2 other people had issues that they were trying to deal with as well. It was a small boutique hotel by the beach. We're like, we need our money back, and we need to go somewhere else. We cannot stay here again. Yeah. And that's never happened in my life. But the worst part about it is that it had an excellent rating and good reviews. Once you stepped into place, it was impossible for that to be true. Impossible. And I think it was a 12 or 14 room place, 3 of us had issues. And it's just, anyways, there's always someone who's got an angle. So we're not talking about shysters today. We could do a whole episode on the scams that we've seen. Holy, have I seen scams in companies? Like they're just everywhere. But this is different.
Yeah.
Although it is a bit of a scam, and we're trying to debunk, which is, when managers tell you they're leaving when one of their people is leaving and they're leaving for more money, that's a bit of a scam, because it's not true.
Yeah.
People generally, more than about 90% of the time, people leave for other variables. Now, they might actually be getting more money. That's not why they're leaving.
So I want to paint this scenario. Sorry, Kev. I want to paint the scenario. Oh. So you're at a meeting. You're a senior leader, and one of your direct reports comes to you and says, "You never believe, but Joanne, pick a random name, Joanne is leaving. Joe is, she gave me a resignation. It's pretty disappointing." Yeah. And then you say, "Oh no, why?" And that person says, she's been offered more money, right? So this is the scenario that we're trying to paint for you as the leader.
It's a common scenario.
Happens all the time.
When people are leaving, they commonly say that because they're not dumb and they don't want to burn a bridge and tell you it's because you're a jerk as their manager. But it's a
BS excuse.
It is.
And that's what we're trying to call out. And what we're trying to, it's so simple and easy. And it's like, that old chestnut again. Just imagine if we paid 20% higher, we wouldn't have any of these problems. Not true at all.
No, people would be happy for a couple of weeks, but then the fundamental issues are still there. It's interesting. So we'll share some research later on, but I have a habit now, because look, by the way, the people that we leave that we care about are A players, by the way. If the people that you mishired leave, they save us the headache, and they can save face and move on. So if they're low performers that leave, fine. We're not talking about that. That they're helping us to fix our mistakes and go find a place where they'll probably be happier and perform better. We're talking about your awesome people that leave. We call A players. Collins would say that they're people that are level 5 leaders if they're leaders, just awesome people. And so that's what we're looking for. But so basically my curiosity, since I've read research around it and got sick of hearing that excuse, I ask every new executive that comes and joins us from somewhere else, when I get a chance, I ask why. I just did it Today is Monday. I did it on Thursday
Yeah.
with a new executive, and I'll tell you about that one in a second. And when people leave, if I have a chance, I ask, or we do proper exit interviews. Now, depending on your HR team, they may or may not be good at getting the truth. People are often guarded. If it's a senior exec, we often have one of the team, one of our firm, one of our consultants do it. Or sometimes some really good HR teams can't have someone who's good at extracting the truth. Either way, we want to get the real deal of why they left so we can learn, because these are high performers. These aren't the low performers. So this executive I talked to the other day, and I'll keep it generic just because I didn't ask their permission to share it, but it's generic. But this is an incredible A-player executive that has the experience you would dream of. He made a massive relocation to a place he never wanted to choose to live. I had the chance to have a good conversation about this, and I said, "So, like, what's the deal?" He goes, "Well, the recruiter called, and they said a few things, and they got my interest. And then, the CEO and I had a conversation, and that went quite well. And I went home and told my wife, this is kind of interesting. And then the CEO and I talked every couple of weeks. Now, this CEO is excellent at recruitment, and he's an awesome guy, so he should be." I said, "Okay, yeah, but why did you consider leaving your existing gig?" So he told me about the sales process almost and why it was good, but why'd you leave? I was bored out of my mind. Oh, okay. He goes,
Oh, so it wasn't more money?
No, actually, I didn't ask him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got paid less. He might have got paid the same, or but
but my question is
no, of course he didn't say that, because that's never the truth. I've never heard that.
The primary exactly.
No, I've never heard it from an executive that comes and joins us, and even the ones that leave. It's I don't recall hearing that in a long time. It's always something else when you dig. And so as I dig in, so tell me about the board. Because, well, I'm used to being in a really dynamic, challenging company. The job was pretty basic. I didn't have to work that hard, and it was boring. He goes, so that was one thing. It wasn't that engaging or challenging. I was kind of lackluster. Secondly, although he was getting paid well. Secondly, he said, this was an exciting opportunity to take all my experience in my career to a company that's earlier in its growth curve, and to apply it and make something exciting and kind of make what I've always wanted to make.
Yeah.
So it was exciting and growth. And by the way, the last thing he said, and if he's listening to this, or people in the room are listening, they will remember this moment. He goes, and at the end of the day, if you get offered a ride on a rocket ship, you say yes. And this company that I'm working with is like a rocket ship. So it was exciting versus boring. It was challenging versus boring. And in many ways, the vision is, and what's going on in the company is rocket ship like, and he's there and all in, and he's awesome. So
there's so many things coming out of that. First of all, if I go back 20, 30 years ago, when I was an employee, I remember people would say that a pay rise only lasts a week.
I've heard this too.
Yeah. So you get frustrated, you get your courage up, and you go in there as an employee, and then you say, okay, I want to get a pay rise. How much? Negotiate. Something comes out, and then you feel, oh, okay, that's good. And then you go away and you get your next pay packet, but all of the problems that drew your frustration are still there. And
Yep.
and so the problem hasn't really been resolved. You've just upset your boss, or got a little bit more pay.
You just put a little sweetener on the deal, but it's still crap.
It's still there. It's still there.
It was interesting talking to my son, who's 19 now, and some of his friends, and one of the people in his life was talking about how they left one location of a restaurant and went to another, same chain, and they said, basically, this other place, I know the manager is awesome, and the place I'm at, the manager, she is not nice. There was a death in her family, and they were not being sympathetic and supportive at all, and just not handling people well. It was a horrific manager making a semi-toxic environment. So they left the same damn chain restaurant and went to a different location because of a better manager. Now, I said, and what did you tell your manager when you left? Actually, I forget what it was. But what she said clearly, she sure as heck didn't say because the manager was an idiot. She said, and this is, 19-year-old girl, 18-year-old girl, I don't want to burn my bridges. So
Yeah.
in many ways, it's not safe to tell the truth. Now, she did say she might go back after and say it because she is a more an outspoken type person. But we all know we've been in those situations
Yeah.
where it's hard. And I even had a client, and normally we filter our clients very well. I had a client that I had to stop working with because I wasn't enjoying it. It was draining me. And I told the CEO exactly what the deal was. But it was really, really challenging to do it respectfully. Like, it was hard. And it was hard when I left because the team felt like I was abandoning the rest of the team, but I wasn't enjoying it at all. And I could go back to the reasons here, and I'm sure a lot of that kicks in. So there's example after example, and I'll just share one more that was like, I get angry when we lose A players, like
Yeah.
internal rage. And I have to be careful because they're not my managers, but to not get too upset at the manager who was in charge, because it's almost like a crime in my mind. So we had a woman in a company who was amazing. She was the head of legal. She was an A plus plus, and she's one of these people that never missed a deadline ever, like in her career, probably with that company. She was like as good as it gets in that job. You could not find a better person, full stop. And she was a mother of two children, married with two kids, and essentially a perfectionist. Everything had to be right. And I remember when she left, I had a conversation with her. I was upset, and I said, like, what happened? And she said, quietly to me, she said, the reality, Kevin, I mentioned to my boss, the executive I worked for, that I couldn't keep up the pace. That it was too much work. I couldn't do it. And through the conversation, it was like an evening dinner and a couple drinks and chatting. Really, what I got out of it was, she's a perfectionist, A player who has to perform. She knew she could not sustain it and still have a family. So she was basically choosing between her sanity or her family or her job. She basically had to quit because she couldn't, there's no way she could keep up to her expectations of herself. It was impossible.
Yeah.
So she had to quit for her sanity, because she wasn't going to let work slip. She wasn't going to let her family slip, and she didn't want to kill herself, or destroy herself, I should say, in the process. And the worst part is, she was giving clues to her manager, and her manager just didn't see it. And her manager's a good guy, but he didn't see it and pick up on it and do enough, and so she had to quit.
So I want to come back to the question and alter perhaps an alternate view, or offer an alternate view. So what to say?
This will be good. This will be good.
Yeah. What to say when managers tell you, or your direct reports tell you, that their people are leaving for more money? Okay. So I've got a team that I work with. They're blue collar. So they work with tradespeople. Okay.
Yep.
And in our economy, we have a mining-based economy, and in the regions, let's say hundreds of kilometers away, or you need to fly to some of these mines. So they're remote. They make insane profits on these mines.
Yep.
And people get poached from this team for much higher wages. So literally, these team members who are tradespeople can get offered a job at double their pay, right? And these people might be in their 20s, and they won't be able to afford to buy a house unless they did something like this.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's a more complicated question, okay? But the overall principle can still remain. Okay. Sometimes because this business that I work with, it's hard. Like we can't offer the same kind of wages
For sure. So in the
in the short
situation,
term.
got it. In a situation where someone cannot feed their family, right? Like they cannot survive and pay their bills and live, then yes, people will go for the money because it's survival. No different than this other woman who was doing
Yeah.
it for her sanity. There are situations where they don't earn enough to live. But here's the thing I'm going to ask you, and I have conversations. Like I have very intense conversations. Like Brad, literally. So let's just say the guy next door um has twice the income that you do, takes twice the vacations, has twice the house and way nicer cars. Is your wife gonna say, "See ya, Brad, I'm gonna go over and set up shop with the guy next door"?
The funny thing to say would be, well, that's actually what happened. Did I tell you that story?
Yeah.
But that's not what really happened. Um, no, yeah. The
But
answer
if
is
that
yes. Yeah,
is
yeah.
yes, she will. No,
No, the answer is yes. You're
no,
right.
it is.
It's,
But there are situations where that does happen.
yeah,
But generally, it's because the relationship isn't good. There's pieces about the situation that aren't meeting people's needs. But if you had an amazing relationship and a bright future together and all kinds of other things, it doesn't matter what you wave in front of someone or not going unless it's about survival, which in that case it is. And that's why, in the research that Lee Branham has done in his book, The 7 Hidden Reasons Employees Leave, in his research of over 20,000 exit interviews, 89% of the time people leave for factors other than money.
yeah.
For sure. 89. That's at all levels. In the executive and leadership levels that we work with, I would hazard that it's close to 100 because they're beyond being able to pay their bills, or they should be at those levels, versus the frontline laborer who can't feed their family.
I agree with that, and there is definitely a line, and I 100% understand Lee's data and agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
My point in that scenario is, well, we need to figure out a way where money isn't an object, either because we need to improve our strategy to
Right.
eke out more gross
Or
margins.
maybe you need to pay properly.
Maybe.
Like we do salary surveys to make sure that we're paying in the right quadrant for the jobs. Like if you're, in my mind, for a lot of the companies we work with, they're kind of, to be in the game, you probably need to be in about the 50th percentile, right? Like kind of right in the middle of what the role would play for some.
I'll give you an example to that. So in that scenario, they might be paying $80,000 to $85,000, and someone could work in the mines for $190,000.
Yeah.
Right. So and plus they would work solid or straight for 14 days.
Is this where they go up to the camp and come back?
Correct. They'd fly.
We have the same thing here.
I'm sure you do.
We do, where people go up to a place in northern Fort McMurray. Yep. People go 2 weeks, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks there, 2 weeks off. It's basically like an out of town job. Yeah, and people, young guys go up there and make an absolute killing.
Yeah.
And as you know, for those that have, for a young independent guy, they might not care. For people that have families, it can be a little bit different. We have that same dynamic here. You just need to sell on the other variables that are meaningful. And there's always going to be some people who will do that, though. Always.
I know but my point is that the principle is still overarching, and it just makes us think more deeply about saying no. Okay. Or saying, when someone asks you, such and such is leaving, Joanne is leaving for more money, just don't accept that prima facie. Just don't accept that.
Correct.
On its merits. We want to go and say, so what's the real reason? Because we know that
assume it's not the truth, so we can get the learning out of it. Again, because going back to the principles of Jim Collins and the window and the mirror he talks about, is if you say they left for money, it's a mere response to a problem, a window response. Oh, it's because over there.
Something else,
How,
not
how
my
about we take a look
responsibility.
in the mirror?
Yeah.
Let's take a look in the mirror and see what we can learn from this so we can be better.
And you know
And we can
why?
improve, whether it's that individual leader or it's us as an organization. We want to assume that it wasn't that, and let's learn and grow.
And you know why? Because the common phrase is borne out that people join companies and leave managers. So that means that as a manager,
Correct.
saying they left because of more money is looking out the window, and we need to look in the
Very
mirror.
convenient. Yeah, it takes the pressure off you, might make you feel good, but it ain't likely true. And I have some strong conversations with people about it, especially in markets like this. And I haven't seen the data change in the conversations I've had. And there's again, we'll say that 10% of the time it could be true, especially at the front lines.
Yeah.
Not so much for and by the way, I've had executives, interestingly, one company I was with, they had some executives that other companies badly wanted and needed to hire. They were offering double the wages to a bunch of these people. And when they didn't take it, I'd ask them why. Well, it was the inverse of the reasons why people normally leave, was the reasons they would stay.
Yeah.
And so people are only susceptible to money, one, if they cannot live,
yeah,
or if a whole bunch of other emotional needs aren't getting met by the job. Then, or emotional or just other needs, then, of course, if I'm already thinking about quitting and you want to offer me 30, 40, 50% more, I'm going to listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's go into what Lee Branham has in his research in his book, and this is one of these books that everyone should read. Not a lot of people know about it. The 7 Hidden Reasons Employees Leave.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll do the first. Yeah, go ahead, Brad.
Okay, so let's just start with the data. This is the like punch in the gut data. Okay,
Yeah.
so 89% of managers say that people leave because they want more money in Lee's 20,000 exit interview.
Right. 89% of managers look out the window and blame an external factor.
Yeah, 89%. There's more money. There's more money. Okay, but then in exit interviews, employees, 88% of employees say that it's not money, but it's other reasons that we'll discuss in a moment. Okay, so you imagine these two pie graphs. We ask the managers, and it's 89% of the managers, it's more money. The second pie graph, it looks almost the same. It's 88% of employees saying, no, it's not the money.
Exactly. It's the opposite.
These things.
Yeah, it's easy for managers to believe that because that's what they're being told. And it also helps them preserve their pride and their ego because they don't have to take responsibility.
Yeah.
So
go on, Kev.
Yeah, let's dig in. Let's go through the 7 here. And it's, and basically, number 1, which is preventable, is the job wasn't what they expected. Like it wasn't what they signed up for. So you either didn't clearly articulate it, or set the right expectations for it. But it's not. They thought this would be an amazing company, an amazing culture, and it was different. They thought it was casual work hours and it's intense. Or who knows? Wasn't what they expected. Number 2, mismatch between job and the person. Basically, they're not capable in the role. Again, preventable, both of those ones up front, because that's something that we could have done in the screening process, is to make sure that they were capable of doing the job.
But also the inverse of that is true. The story that you told, whereby the person was bought out of his wits.
Yes.
And so that's a
true.
mismatch.
Because if they need to be challenged and it's a casual, repetitive, boring job, so it doesn't, if they're a racehorse, they're a pony in a circus. The job is being a pony in a circus. They're not going to be happy. Actually, we're on our list. We're missing. It goes 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're missing number 3. I will pull that up.
It's okay. Number 3 is too little coaching and feedback.
Thank you. And people always want to know how they're doing, and high performers in particular expect the worst. And especially when they don't hear it from their managers. That's why performance reviews get mandated. That's why we like people to do at least a quarterly mini review to keep things going. And then number 4, and this one is a killer, and it's a gut punch when it goes wrong, is there's too few growth and advancement opportunities. People will say, like, my manager's going to be here for the next 20 years. There's nowhere for me to go. Or whatever it is, they cannot see getting to the next level, or someone has said you can't, versus having development. This is where development plans are key. And it's horrible when you're in a company that's growing 30 or 40% per year and they can't see the opportunities for growth. They're everywhere. But it seems to be you need to paint by number and show them the path.
Yeah.
Again, development plans are critical to that. Brad, you want to take over from
Yeah.
5 there?
Number 5 is feeling devalued and unrecognized. So is your employee proud of their company, proud of their team, proud of their product, and proud of their manager? Otherwise, they will eventually leave. And so are they valued and recognized? Does their manager spend one-on-one time with them to make sure that they feel like they're recognized? And you know what people say in a large company when they quit? I was just a number. Like,
exactly.
I was just a number. Number 6, stress from overwork and work-life imbalance. Some people love to work themselves into the ground and overwork, let's say, and other people don't. Everyone's got their own measure, but if it's not working for them, they're, ultimately they're going to leave. So we've got to make sure that the work is enough to keep them, enough to challenge them, but they can still have a life outside of that. The old union saying was, we want to have 8 hours for work, 8 hours for play, and 8 hours for sleep. And that's where the 8-hour workday came from. So number 7, loss of trust and confidence in senior leaders. So if we don't trust and have confidence in the people that they look up to, that they report to, they're just going to think the whole thing is a joke, and they're going to, want to work for a decent company.
Yeah, and that's why you got to deal with your underperformers and things. If you've got an underperforming executive or senior leader and you're not doing anything about it, they're going to look at you like you're an idiot and lose trust in you. Or if there's actual trust in you in terms of integrity trust. There's about your trusting your ability to deal with things. And then it's also your ability to continue to build a successful company. If they see a whole bunch of things that look like failure and that you're not changing it, again, people lose trust. So 7 basic reasons. The thing to really, summarize this with is that, hey, just don't take the story that people left for money. Assume that's not true. Statistically, it's not likely true. Assume it's not true so you can look in the mirror and that manager who lost the person and yourself as a company to learn from it. And so, for example, we just lost an excellent senior exec in one of our companies. And we engaged someone to go do a formal exit interview so we can learn everything from it. Because, losing a key executive is about $1 million hit, right? That's the cost of finding, onboarding, and getting them up to speed, plus a disruption. You can probably account for about $1 million for an exec. Pretty easy. And that's assuming they're not getting paid $1 million. That's a healthy 6-figure, not $1 million a year executive. And it's we got to learn from that. It happens, but we need to absolutely learn so we can be better. So
yeah. So what do you say when managers tell you people are leaving for more money? Our advice, or an idea might be, so what's the real reason? And then ask them to pick from one of those 7 reasons. So what's the real reason?
And then when you're wanting to prevent and retain people, look at the inverse of the 7 reasons leave and make it the 7 reasons that people will stay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great conversation. I love this topic. And, and again, it debunks common myths that we hear about in business all the time. And it helps us to be better.
Yeah. Okay. So, as a leader, your direct reports will tell your team members have left for money, but the problem is it's an easy excuse and it never leads to really fixing the attrition issues. Instead, what if you didn't accept that answer and ask them for the real answer, it will lead to better operational culture. And that's what we're talking about today. So again, we don't advise, we offer an option for you to say what to say when managers are leaving your company. Just spin back to what's the real reason. I'm going to quickly go through those 7
And if in doubt, get them to read the book.
Yeah, if in doubt, get them to read the book. Quick review of those 7 things again. Number 1, job or workplace was not as expected. Number 2, the mismatch between job and person. 3, too little coaching and feedback. 4, too few growth and advancement opportunities. 5, feeling devalued and unrecognized. 6, stress from overwork and work-life balance. 7, loss of trust and confidence in senior leaders. Good chat today, Kev. I hope that you all have enjoyed today's episode. For the video version, go to YouTube and search for the Growth Whisperers. Kevin and his firm Lawrence & Co. put out a very interesting newsletter every week that you may wish to subscribe to, that you can at his website. And of course, I've got a newsletter as well. You can find my newsletter at evolutionpartners.com.au. Obviously, if you can, hit subscribe on your podcasts or on YouTube. We'd love to have a regular chat with you. Hope they enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to chatting to you again next week. Have a great week.